So welcome to part 2B of how to make a very rich fruit cake, which you can turn into a wedding cake, birthday cake, Christmas cake, or any other kind of very rich fruit cake, celebration cake that you want to. Don't forget, the recipe is out of this book, The Art of Home Cooking, very old book. And the recipe for the quantities, page 146 and 147, is the metric quantities for this. What we've done, we've uploaded a photograph of that sheet, that double spread, and the one afterwards, which is the imperial units, so that you can work out how many ingredients you need to fill your cake. To recap from the last video that you saw me do, where I was lining and preparing the tin for it to go into, this is a 10-inch or a 25 centimetre metal cake tin, as you can see under the camera there, and that is now ready to receive the cake mixture that I'm now going to do. And if I look at my recipe book at the quantities and just check them off as I go, I'll point to them under the camera. So currant sultanas and raisins, here you've got those that were washed and prepared and soaked either in juice or alcohol last time in video number 1. And if you add all of those quantities up together, 675, 450, 225, plus the mixed peel, 150 grams, plus the glacé cherries, 175 grams. If you add those 5 ingredients up for the 25 centimetre square tin, you get 1,675 grams of fruit. And what I've done is I've taken them out of the liquid that they were soaking in, and I've squeezed as much of the liquid out so that what I've got is the fruit that's been soaked and has now absorbed either juice or alcohol to make it flavour beautifully, and plump them up as well. And those are in a bowl. That's 1,675 grams of dried mixed fruits, cherry and mixed peel. That's all ready now to go into my cake. But look how much of it I've got here. Okay, so I'll leave that there to one side. Next ingredient down says obviously almonds. Well, I've got a mixture, and the amount of almonds I need for my cake is 175 grams, but I've got 175 grams of a mix here, and that is flaked almonds and halved walnuts. You don't have to put any nuts into yours at all, okay? In which case, add 175 grams more fruit into the bowl so that it plumps it out. But I'm going to put some nuts in because I think that makes it a really nice Christmassy flavoured cake. So there are my nuts, all weighed out and ready to go. Next ingredient down says grated lemon rind. So I've taken, for my cake, I needed to do 2. So I've literally taken my grater. And if I show you what side of the grater to use, okay, use this side. Try to avoid using this side with the little teeth, because the lemon peel will just stick to it. But if you've got a grater with a miniature version of the cheese grater side on it, that's the perfect size to use to actually zest the lemons for your cake. And here I've got them here. This is 2 grated zests. That will add a really nice citrusy flavour to my cake. So I've got that there ready as well. Now the next ingredient down says brandy, but don't forget I have soaked the fruit in alcohol, so I don't need to add. And in fact, if you're going to soak your fruit, I would recommend you not adding at the mixing stage any extra alcohol, because you'll just make it very, very sloppy, and then you'll make a very heavy cake. Okay, don't forget alcohol, when it's heated, evaporates, so you lose the alcoholic content anyway. And some people prefer to soak their fruit in juice. Apple juice is the best to use. However, I have squeezed as much as the excess liquid out, but I don't need to add any alcohol to the mixing at this stage because it's already there, it's in there. The next ingredient down says plain flour. So I have weighed out the quantity of plain flour that I need. There is no reason, no point at all in using self-raising flour, because this is quite a rich, heavy cake and it's not going to rise like a normal cake. So you don't need self-raising, just use plain flour. That's already weighed out and sifted. The next two ingredients down are the spices. Now you can use whatever spices you like. Here I've got mixed spice and ground nutmeg, both very traditionally spices used at Christmas as well. And for the amount that I need, the mixed spice, I need 2 teaspoons of mixed spice and I need 1 teaspoon of nutmeg. So I'm going to show you that now. If I just move the camera so that you can see the flour there, I'm actually going to put the spice in with my flour. So if I just sprinkle the mixed spice, I need 2 of those in my traditional cake. There you go, that's 2 teaspoons of mixed spice. And I need also a teaspoon of nutmeg. I have in the past, I've put ginger into mine, and you might say, Miss, actually I want it spicier than that. Can I put some more mixed spice? Can I put 3 teaspoons of mixed spice in? You can put as much as you like in. It depends on how spicy you like your cakes, how Christmassy smelling you want your cakes to be. So I've put those powdered spices in with the powdered flour for later on. Underneath that on the recipe sheet, you'll see it says ground almonds. So there I've got the quantity of ground almonds. I've got 125 grams for my 25 centimetre tin, and that is ground almonds. That's also powdery, and that will go in at the same time as the flour and the spices. So I'll put those all together there. Then you've got, obviously, the main ingredients of any cake. You've got butter or margarine. Please don't use or try and use low-fat spreads for this. There isn't enough fat in low-fat spreads. But butter or margarine, this is the best kind of fat to use. We've got dark brown sugar. Now, this is soft, dark brown sugar. It's finer than granulated, golden granulated sugar. It's got a slight coating of molasses in it, black treacle, which gives it that lovely malty flavour. And there's quite a lot there that I need to use in my recipe. So there you are. I've got that dish there ready. And for the 25 centimetre tin, you need 8 eggs. So that's what I've got. I've broken 8 eggs into this jug, and I'm now just whisking them up so that we don't have any whole eggs left in the jug there. And that is now ready to use in my cake mixture. So having taken you through all of those ingredients, we've got them all ready. Here is the last one, which is black treacle. So you're actually going to be putting into a large cake like the one I'm doing. I need 2 tablespoons. That's 2 whole large 15 milliliter spoonfuls. So I've got that ready as well to go in when necessary. What I'm going to do now is swivel the camera around so that you can see the mixer that I'm using to put this in. And I would recommend that if you are going to make a very large version of the cake, okay, I would recommend you using a mixer to help you put everything together. So there you go. So you should be able to see what's inside there now. Hopefully it will, there you go, stay in place like so. There you go, that's it, lovely. Okay, now this is a cake that basically you can make in the normal way of making a creamed cake, which is we're going to get our butter, and I'm going to put all of that, it's room temperature, so that it's not going to be too hard to mix together like so. And I'm going to get my sugar, even though it's a very dark brown kind of, and this of course is one ingredient that actually helps to give the cake its traditional really dark colour, which is what we want in a very rich fruit cake. This is why they're so expensive, of course, to buy in the shops, because of the you know, the kind of materials you've got going on in there. I've got my eggs and my powdery things ready to put in next. So I'm going to close that down. I'm going to turn it on. Turn it up. And the beater is now softening the butter and creaming together. But don't worry too much about, oh, you know, trapping air, because I'm afraid this is quite, well, it is a very rich cake, but it isn't going to be a light, fluffy sponge because of the amount of fruit that's in it. Right, so we've got our mixture sort of starting to get looking like a cake mixture. I've got a spatula ready, and what I can do now, and you can do this as many times as you want, so I'm just going to do it once today for the sake of speed, so that we can, you know, I can show you what it looks like at the end. And you can use your spatula to get the mixture back down into the bottom of the bowl every few minutes, so that you know that you've got everything beaten up together really well. There we go. Let's try it again. There we are. Okay, so that's what the mixture looks like. It's that lovely brown colour. Okay, now, so once you've creamed the sugar and the butter or margarine together, it then says, don't add the eggs yet, add your treacle. So this is also going to give it a lovely dark colour. So I'm going to take 2 tablespoons of treacle out of the tin. Okay, so let's just scoop that in. I'll go behind the actual mixer. So there's 1 lovely tablespoon in there. And let's get another one out of the tin. So here we go. Let's try and level that off a little bit. There we go. That can go away. And scoop it in. I'll go behind the beater again so that it's behind it. And this is going to turn it that lovely deep brown colour and give it also a malty kind of flavour, malted kind of flavour, which is, again, traditional of a fruit cake. So here we go. Beat it in. Excellent. And now the recipe says add the eggs one at a time and adding a little of the powdery flour and spice mixture. So I've got that ready. And here I've got my egg, my jug of egg, and I'm going to turn it on low and put a little bit of the egg in. Let's beat it and add a little bit of the flour. Let it mix in. And the flour is helping the egg to stick to the cake mixture. So here's another bit of egg. In it goes. And here's another tablespoon or so of the flour and spice mix. And every few additions, stop the mixer, lift up the beater, okay, and scoop down or scrape down the mixture from the side of the bowl, like so, so that it all gets into the bottom where the beater is actually going to mix. You can use a food processor for this. It might be that you just want to use an electric hand mixer for the first bit with the sugar and the margarine or butter, and then from then on use a wooden spoon. It doesn't matter how you mix it, but you can see how big the bowl is that I need for such a big cake. So let's carry on. Now that's mixing nicely. It's a good speed, nice low speed. So let's carry on. A little bit more egg, a little bit more spice and flour. And once you've seen it mixed in and incorporated, just keep adding a bit of egg, a couple of tablespoons, 2-3 tablespoons of egg, 1 tablespoon of the spice and flour mix. And the mixer is doing all the hard work for me. So that's a little bit more egg, a little bit more flour to help it key together. A little bit more egg, a little bit more flour. Now I'm going to stop it again and do exactly what I did a few minutes ago, where I'm lifting the beater out and just literally making sure that everything on the side of the bowl is scraped into the mixture as a whole. I'm going to do it on that side as well. Absolutely imperative that you get it evenly mixed throughout and get right down to the bottom so that there's nothing on the bottom that hasn't mixed in. That's it, but that's an easy job by comparison to what the mixer's doing. Here we go again. That's it. Now, last bit of egg is going in. And 1 more flour. Okay. And at that point, we can stop for a second and lift the meat mixer. Now, I'm going to get my spatula again, and I'm going to just, for final time with just the egg going in, scrape it all down. So you've got a lovely sloppy mixture in the bottom that's all nicely blended together. That's the egg, the butter and the sugar, the black treacle, and some of the flour. And what we do now is we take the rest of the flour and the spice mix and we put those in with the ground almonds. Okay, so all the dry stuff is in there now, and the only thing we haven't put in there is our peel and our nuts and the fruit. Okay, so let's just make this beautiful mixture, cake mixture. There we go. Now, while it's mixing, I'm going to add the peel. So the lemon zest has now gone in. Giving it lovely aroma and taste of citrus. I can now add the nuts while it's mixing. You'll probably hear it crunching, some of the nuts. Now at this point, you can add some of the fruit, but it's probably a good idea to stop it at this point for the very final thing. So what I'm going to do, I'm lifting the beater out of my mixer and I'm making sure I'm getting all of that mix off the beater, as much of it as possible. And I remember when I was a little girl, when my mum made a cake like this, she would give the beater to us to actually lick, because this tastes absolutely divine. Obviously, that's your risk if you want to do that, because there's always a risk of salmonella or campylobacter food poisoning in raw egg because it hasn't been cooked. But that is a bowl full of deliciousness there. And in fact, what I need to do now is to move the whole thing back onto the table like so. So if I twist that round, There we go, to free it up. And I'll swivel the camera to the table so that you can just about see where the fruit is. Okay, and this is the last thing that you do, which is to literally, okay, take all of that beautiful fruit. And you can use a spatula if you're happy with a spatula. Some people prefer to use a wooden spoon because it's a much bigger, stronger thing to use. I don't mind what you use. I'll show you what mixing with a spoon looks like. So here's a really big wooden spoon here. And if I get right underneath it now and turn it over, we've added everything now from the list of ingredients. This is the best bit. And get every single currant, sultana, cherry, raisin, a bit of peel or anything else, get right down to the bottom so that you've mixed it really well. You don't want to have any pockets of dried fruit left over that haven't been covered, and equally you don't want any of the cake mixture sort of without any fruit in it left at the bottom of the tin as well, at the bottom of the bowl as well. So I think I've gotten right down to the bottom of that. Hope so anyway. And look at that beautiful cake. Okay, so now we're ready to put this into our tin. So let's get the tin. This is our prepared tin from step 2A that I did earlier. And now I'm literally going to take the tin and I'm going to coax out as well all of the ingredients into the bottom of that cake tin, out of the bottom of the mixing tin. There we go. You keep going, push it down. Just at this point, just literally get it all out of your tin and into your cake tin, out of the bowl. Last little bit coming out there. And then it's very important that you don't just level it off. I'm going to show you a technique that I was shown many years ago about finishing it off before you put it into the oven to cook. Okay, so there you are. You've got your cake all inside. Now using your wooden spoon, okay, flatten it down and push it right into the corners of your prepared cake tin, like so, and make sure there aren't any pockets of air anywhere. So I've pushed it down like so, and using the back of the spoon I can start to flatten it off, but you don't want it to be flat when it goes into the oven, and I'll show you why. So I'm just turning it round and pushing it right up against the edges and right into the corner, flattening it so that there aren't any air pockets anywhere in there, like so. Try and get it evenly distributed so that it's not going to rise in one place more than another. Okay, so I think I've equally distributed that now, and I've got all the corners catered for. And the weight of the cake mixture is actually going to push up against the greaseproof and keep it there. Now, using my spatula now, back to the spatula for the last job before I put it into the oven. Whoops, picking some out. There you go. There we are. Is using your spatula, flatten it until you get into the middle. The middle should be domed inwards. And the reason for that is because even though we haven't used self-raising flour, any trapped air in there, which of course there will be, will start to push the cake up. And for a very rich fruit cake, you want a flat result, not a domed result. Unlike most cakes that you want to see a nice sort of dome on the top of the cake, you don't want that with these, because you're going to marzipan and ice and decorate them. So literally take your spatula or a spoon, it doesn't matter what, and sort of dent into the middle so that you've actually created almost a well in the middle of the cake. You can flatten out around the outside edges, but what you're trying to create is almost like an expansion valve in the middle of the cake, so that that bit that's going to rise is actually going to just fill that well and just result in a nice flat cake. So I'm going to take it down a little bit more and just make that into that well. You can sort of grade it out so that it's not actually a hole in the cake, it's just lower in the middle, like so. And that, folks, is your cake that is now that we've put the brown paper on the outside, that is ready to cook. And the recipe book says after 2.5 hours at the regulation, which according to the book you should have the temperature of your oven onto 150 degrees Celsius. Okay, 150 to 160 degrees Celsius. You should, after 2.5 hours, take a cake tester or a very, very thin knife and test the cake. Here is my cake tester. So push it in, bring it out, and if there's anything left on it, carry on cooking it for another half an hour, and every half an hour test it. But if there is nothing on it, then it's ready. And for the smaller cakes, this is a big cake, but for the smaller cakes, they might only take 2.5 hours. Whereas this cake, I know is going to take at least 3 at 150 degrees Celsius. However, that is it for today's stage. Don't forget, allow yourself plenty of time to cook these. And once they have cooked, when you have tested your cake and it's come out clean and you think that's it, it's ready, turn the oven off, okay? And open the door, but leave them to cool down inside the oven, okay? And that can take up to an hour just to cool down, and then take it out and keep it somewhere safe. Wrap it up in greaseproof paper and keep it in a cool, dry cupboard until the next stage. Okay, that's it for today.